True Crime King back.
The biggest question of all is, would Bryan Kohberger have been framed? Is that something that could have even happened? Or are people who even dare to go there, are they just clutching at straws? Are they...
What's up, guys? True Crime King back. So I'm just gonna have to start doing a harsh reality series because I took a look at his channel and somebody needs to call this guy out, man. And it's gonna have to be me because obviously nobody else is doing it. His whole thing is just talking about the Idaho 4 case, and well, this is a great example right here. The title of this video, he named it "The Framing," all caps, of Bryan Kohberger. Right? The framing of Bryan Kohberger. Obviously, it's total clickbait, right? Because there's no evidence whatsoever anybody framed anybody. And nobody did frame anybody because there's no evidence and it didn't happen. Okay? So when you read this title, right, "The Framing of Bryan Kohberger," you would think to yourself, oh my God, he must have some evidence that supports somebody framed Bryan Kohberger, right? That's why everybody clicks on this video, right? So, I haven't seen it yet, but I guarantee you, he's not going to have one piece of evidence that supports Bryan Kohberger being framed. I'm just saying it now, before I even react and watch this video. So here we go.
Truly tinfoil hat wearing people who should stay in their lane. And we're going to talk about why I think it's important for you guys who are completely against the Bryan Kohberger being framed to understand that these things happen. And how I'm going to address this with you is by giving you some real and true examples of where the system, not just law enforcement, but the many systems that are in place that we trust every day, are screwing you every day, and you accept it.
Okay, so he just said he's going to give us examples of other people that have been framed, and he's going to show us that it happened. No shit, Harsh. I mean, duh. We know that people do get framed sometimes. We know people in government are corrupt. Everybody knows all this. But you're saying that Bryan Kohberger specifically was framed. That's the fucking title of your video, man. And all you're going to do, literally, seriously, is just give us examples of other people being framed. I mean, this is total. I mean, clown activity. This is clown activity, okay? You're a clown, Harsh.
Let's get straight into it. Now look, by the end of this, all of these things that I talk about are going to hopefully bring more clearer focus towards the reality, and that is that Bryan Kohberger could have indeed been framed. We could be looking at a situation that Bryan Kohberger didn't do this crime, but law enforcement utilized him as a scapegoat.
I mean, see how he's saying all this with again, I'm going to say this 1,000 times, zero evidence, okay? And remember, we do have evidence of Bryan Kohberger being guilty, okay? we have evidence supporting that theory, right? If there was any evidence at all that supported the police framing him, if there was, if one of the roommates came out publicly and said something, or there was a video of a cop doing something, right, then, hey, there's no problem with that, because, hey, you got some evidence, man, right? But when you're just doing this to make a title and get clicks and views, it's just wrong, and it's just despicable, man.
And I think what's first important is to understand what we mean when we turn around and say someone has been framed.
Yeah, and think about this real quick. He is literally accusing the Moscow police and the FBI of framing Bryan Kohberger, when, as far as we know, they have done an excellent job and have caught the heinous monster that took these 4 innocent lives and ruined their families forever, okay? So, as of right now, the Moscow police, the FBI, everybody that was involved, they've done a great job. And Harsh is out here spewing these lies and literally saying that they framed Kohberger with no evidence. I mean, how can you do this, you know? And call yourself a legit YouTuber and a real creator, right? How could you possibly do this? You should be ashamed of yourself, man.
I think a lot of people have this mindset that when someone says frame, there's this, it's like a sensational thing. It's this big deal that we see in movies where someone has been framed for murdering someone, and it's drawn out across this really exciting 1.5, 2 hour long film, and that's where we are exposed to this situation. So when we look at the case of the Idaho 4 and we hear the word framed, our only reference point is to reference where we've seen people being framed in the past. And we use films and we use...
When did it ever come up that Bryan Kohberger was ever framed? It's only being come up from YouTube creators that, like you and Crime Circus, that are just doing this for clickbait and views. I mean, nobody else, no legit news source is saying that Bryan Kohberger was framed, because there's no evidence, man, and it's just irresponsible.
Dramatization, you know, through these maybe 4 or 5 part documentaries. Well, I say documentaries, I mean entertainment shows. And the truth is that real life is seldom like the movies, and that is included in the framing situation. Framing in real life.
And do you see how he's trying to make this, you know, a video with, you know, the longer people watch the video, it all factors in with the YouTube algorithm stuff. So he's literally just been going on about the definition, just about a framing and no nonsense for 3.5 minutes now, you know.
Is not the same as framing in the movies. It doesn't quite work that way.
Get to the point, Harsh.
And what we're going to do at the end, we're going to talk very specifically about how the framing of Bryan Kohberger would have truly looked.
There is no framing of Bryan Kohberger, Harsh. What are you talking about, man?
And so you understand that it ain't like the movies. So perhaps you can get your head around the fact that, look, it could have indeed been possible. But first of all, let's just talk about the corruption and things that are all around you every day that you're seemingly forgetting about if you believe that law enforcement is an organisation that can simply be trusted and shouldn't be questioned. So first of all, let's talk about Wayne Couzens. Now, Wayne Couzens, for those of you who don't know, was a police officer who worked for the Met Police in the UK.
Okay. Why are we talking about, first of all, some ex-cop that used to work in the UK, right? We're talking about this guy that has nothing to do. He's just giving us some examples of people that have been framed or have done some shady activity, okay? He, just like I said in the beginning, no evidence whatsoever of Bryan Kohberger being framed. Yet, that's the title of this video, The Framing of Bryan Kohberger. I mean, it's just so sad.
And Wayne Couzens was an absolute monster. And if you've never heard of him, after this video, go and Google him. But this was a guy who went on to kill. A police officer who went on to kill. I'm not going to go balls deep into that situation because it's a heinous, heinous crime. But what I will tell you is that that could have been prevented. But the police... And I'll go to something completely unrelated to kind of police and crime and this. Energy companies and banks.
Okay, so I just skipped ahead. He literally talked about that Wayne Couzens, the ex-police officer that was in the UK, for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. That's all he talked about. Okay, nothing to do with the Idaho 4 case. Nothing to do with Bryan Kohberger. Just about some ex-cop in the UK, not even in the US. Okay, let alone Moscow, Idaho. So now I skipped ahead to the 11-minute mark. Let's see what he's got here.
These are the same people who are telling you that we're in this dire mess and their interest rates have to go up and things have to cost more. We have to charge more for this, charge more for...
British gas owners, record profits as energy profits soar. Now he's talking about, you know, these gas companies that do shady things, you know, to make more money. Again, nothing to do with Bryan Kohberger, nothing to do with the Idaho 4 case. But again, the title of his video is The Framing of Bryan Kohberger.
For that, and then all of a sudden, the banks come out and they post profits.
What are we doing here, you know?
Exponentially higher than they were last year. So,
I mean, I'm gonna skip. This is ridiculous. I can see the whole rest of his video. Look, I'll skip to the end. Watch.
That their entire legal setup and system gives them utter power with the absolute minimal of proof needed. You've got yourself a shit show. Now the question is, what is going to happen at the end? Are we going to see this play out in a way that in the end, right at the end, everyone's seen enough and they're confident enough that the outcome was the right outcome?
So literally, the whole video was about a police officer in the UK, okay, and gas and oil companies, nothing to do with anything with the Moscow, Idaho case and Bryan Kohberger. Yet, the title of his video is The Framing of Bryan Kohberger. No evidence, no nothing. It's just so ridiculous. It's not even funny. And that's why I'm gonna be doing a series on it. I'm gonna be call out all these. Somebody's got to bring this stuff to light. I mean, it's just all clickbait, and he's making money for every view, and he's getting thousands and thousands of views for videos like this, let alone subscribers, right? It's ridiculous. So you guys might want to think twice on who you're watching, right? Have a great day, guys, and until next time, True Crime King.